This mini-series begins by showing a young man named Ha Dong-soo walking alone in the middle of the night. Dong-soo looks like an ordinary young man in general. He has aspirations as a musician, but unfortunately, he doesn't have a good voice even though he can compose beautiful songs. Not long after, Dong-soo was suddenly intercepted by a group of gangsters, so he tried to escape, but the gangsters caught him and knocked him unconscious. The gangsters turn out to be an illegal organ trafficking syndicate, and they take him for surgery to take his organs. The scene changes and shows a male surgeon operating on Dong-soo's body. But when he had finished the operation and was removing Dong-soo's body parts, the bag where his pieces were located suddenly moved on its own, which surprised the doctor. Even Dong-soo's hand can move out of the plastic bag and hold the doctor's leg. However, it turned out was all just the doctor's bad dream. When he wakes up, he wonders if Dong-soo is a connect, an urban legend currently popular among young people in South Korea. In the next scene, Dong-soo's actual condition is shown in the operating room. The doctor's guess turned out to be true because Dong-soo came from a human-like race called connect. Connect apparently has a feature: they can never die, even if they are killed in any way. Even if they were injured, the wound would heal instantly because their body had a network that looked like a worm but could connect and regenerate all parts of their body. Because of that privilege, Dong-soo managed to reconnect his entire body, which had been cut into pieces by the surgeon, and escaped from that place even though one of his eyes was left in the operating room. A few days later, a woman was seen walking toward a crowd of residents looking at a statue of art plastered on the side of the road one morning. Many of them were amazed to see the statue, including the woman, so they took pictures of the statue with their cell phone cameras. At the same time, the woman realized that there was blood dripping from the statue's finger, and it was revealed that the work of art they thought was the statue was the corpse of a woman because a lot of blood was seeping out from all parts of the statue's body. The discovery of the body of the murder victim shocked the community. The perpetrator who killed the woman was suspected to be a psychopath because the perpetrator not only killed her but had the heart to skin her body and make her look like a statue. The perpetrator even left traces on the woman's body in carved letters that read PL. Unexpectedly, Dong-soo was seen in the crowd of residents at the place and witnessed the discovery of the body. At the same time, he looked healthy, as if nothing had ever happened to his body, only this time, he was wearing a blindfold. The scene then changes and shows Dong-soo playing his guitar and arranging his song. At the same time, he suddenly winced in pain while holding one of his missing eyes. He didn't only feel sick but also seemed to have a vision from his missing eye, which made him realize that the one missing eye might already be in someone else's body. In that vision, Dong-soo catches a glimpse of the horoscope display with the same symbol as written on the body of the murder victim this morning, namely PL. Since then, Dong-soo has been determined to find his missing eye because he realizes that his eye has been donated to someone who might be the psychopath killer. As time went on, it turned out that there had been 2 murder victims committed by PL with a similar concept, namely turning the victims into very aesthetic statues. At first, the police were confused because when they tried to trace the identities of the 2 victims, it turned out that they had no connection at all. The police finally concluded that PL had no specific motive in killing his victims, and he just killed them randomly. The next day, Dong-soo is seen working at a junk factory owned by an elderly couple. At that time, he accidentally caught his boss being harassed by 3 delinquent youths, so Dong-soo felt sorry for him and intended to help him escape. However, his action made the 3 young men angry and beat Dong-soo. Not long after, one of the young men threatened him, but he accidentally hurt one of Dong-soo's ears, causing his blindfold to come off as well. The 3 young men were very surprised when they saw his missing eyes and called Dong-soo a monster, then they ran away. Hearing this, he becomes sad and angry because, since childhood, he was always shunned by all his friends because of his privilege. Not long after, his ear was reconnected by itself. In the evening, when Dong-soo was on his way home, he again met the gangsters who had kidnapped him. The gangsters look even more eager to catch him because they know his privileges. However, he doesn't stay silent and tries to escape, but he soon becomes pressured by gangsters. Luckily, Dong-soo is saved by a woman who suddenly appears and takes him running away from the gangsters. After they managed to evade the gangsters' pursuit and reached a safe place, the woman confessed that she was writing a novel about Connect and had been researching the existence of the Connect race for a long time. Then she wanted to prove it to Dong-soo, and she hurt his leg. It didn't stop there. The woman even had the heart to throw Dong-soo under the bridge, hitting a car. Even though her actions seem cruel, she doesn't seem to feel guilty after finding out that Dong-soo is indeed a Connect because he didn't die or get hurt because of her actions. Meanwhile, Dong-soo feels scared of the woman and runs away again. At the same time, a man who turns out to be PL appears. The scene then changes and shows another side of the psychopathic killer, Oh Jin-sog. Unexpectedly, he turns out to be an exemplary employee in his office. That day, he is approached by a woman named Lee Soon-hee, his co-worker, who seems to have romantic feelings for him. When he was talking with Soon-hee, Jin-sog suddenly winced in pain while clutching one of his eyes. Elsewhere, Dong-soo also feels sick and can see what Jin-sog saw again. Apparently, the condition that they both experienced could happen because he heard Dong-soo's song that was accidentally played by Soon-hee. Because of that, it made Dong-soo's eyes on Jin-sook respond to the sound, so Dong-soo was finally able to get a little clue about the whereabouts of the person using his eyes at this time, through the sight of the place he saw at a glance. Sometime later, Dong-soo went to the area near Jin-sook's office, and there he met Soon-hee and recognized her face. Initially, he intends to ask Soon-hee a few questions, but she gets scared when she sees Dong-soo because she accidentally sees his missing eye. Even Soon-hee and her friends thought he was a bad person, so they both chose to leave him just like that. Even so, Dong-soo still doesn't give up and is determined to do whatever it takes to find his eyes again. Then he sees Soon-hee and her friends meet Jin-sook at a restaurant, so he rushes to find the restaurant's location. Unfortunately, Dong-soo doesn't realize that the man he bumps into at the restaurant door is Jin-sook, so when he walks into the restaurant, he only sees Soon-hee and her friends.
아니, 저는 그냥 사람을 찾고 있는 건데요.
Arriving home, Dong-soo tries to look back at something in his memory and sees that Jin-sook is looking at a horoscope picture. With that clue, he goes to see a female fortune teller to find out the meaning of the horoscope image. The fortune teller says that the PL symbol that Dong-soo is pointing to is the symbol of the planet Pluto, and it turns out that there is something special in the planet's movement. She explained that in some time, the planet Pluto and Venus will be in a parallel line, or in astronomical terms, it is called a planetary conjunction. The fortune teller also indicated the calculated date on which the planets would again align. After listening to this, Dong-soo realizes that Jin-sook is using the conjunction time to finish off his victim, and he finds out that the next murders will occur on the 25th of December and end on the 6th of January. The scene changes and shows Jin-sook, who is in his office on the 24th of December or one day before he starts his action again. He seems to be drawing his next potential victim, a middle-aged woman, in his sketchbook. The book contains sketches of the victims that has turned into works of art. When Jin-sook was focusing on drawing, Soon-hee suddenly came to his house. Then she expressed her feelings for him and hoped that they could get closer to each other or even have a love affair. At the same time, the fortune teller reports Dong-soo's arrival at her place to Detective Choi, who handles the murder case. This made him suspicious of Dong-soo, and he suspected that the real murderer was Dong-soo. Their suspicions also increased when Detective Choi and the police finally realized that Dong-soo was often seen around the victim's location through the photos they got. Meanwhile, after Soon-hee conveys her feelings to Jin-sook, they decide to do fun things. Sometime later, she looks curious about what's in Jin-sook's study, so she decides to go there. But she was shocked when she found a sketchbook containing art sketches of the victims killed by Jin-sook. She realizes that some of the sketches in the book are similar to the corpse statues that have shocked the public lately. The next day, exactly on the 25th of December, Dong-soo's suspicions were finally proven because the police again found a statue of the corpse that was a murder victim. On the other hand, Soon-hee, who was on the bus and about to go to the office, saw the news, so she remembered the appearance of a corpse statue, which was again exactly the same as the one in Jin-sook's sketchbook. At the same time, Dong-soo is seen at the scene of the murder, but instead, he meets gangsters who are after him. Then he ran away, but the gangsters chased him, and coincidentally the police were also targeting him. Hence, Detective Choi ordered the police to chase Dong-soo and the gangsters. When Dong-soo was pressured by gangsters, he was again saved by the novelist woman who finally introduced herself as Lee Yi-rong. Then they exchanged phone numbers so they could contact each other. On the other hand, Soon-hee, who had arrived at the office, asked Jin-sook to go to the office rooftop. Then she asked the help of one of her co-workers, Min-jae, to oversee their conversation. Without further ado, Soon-hee asked about the sketchbook he had to prove her suspicions about Jin-sook. Even though he tries to cover it all up at first, in the end, Jin-sook is forced to act when he finds out someone else overheard their conversation. Soon after, Jin-sook threw his coat at Soon-hee and knocked her unconscious, then attacked Min-jae and threw him from the top floor so that he died instantly. Unexpectedly, everything Jin-sook does can be seen by Dong-soo, because Soon-hee's cell phone accidentally plays his song. At first, Dong-soo was confused because he still didn't know the location of the building where Jin-sook was until he saw Min-jae, who had fallen from the top of the building, so he could only see Jin-sook, who finally killed Soon-hee, although she is a woman who really likes him. Dong-soo was very angry and hysterical after seeing all the heinous actions committed by Jin-sook, so he entered Jin-sook's office to arrest him. When he managed to enter, Dong-soo saw Jin-sook, who entered the toilet, so he followed him. Then he forces Jin-sook out of the toilet cubicle. He even tries to enter through the toilet cubicle gap, irritating Jin-sook. Because of that, Jin-sook hurts him, even though it's only in vain because he is a connect. Unfortunately, Dong-soo has not had the chance to see Jin-sook's face directly because he was arrested by the police and building security, who suspected him of being a murderer. Even though Dong-soo had explained to the police that they had caught them wrong, the police were reluctant to listen, so he tried to reach Jin-sook's leg through the gap in the toilet door. This then made Jin-sook even see the wound on Dong-su's hand, which was slowly healing by itself. But when Dong-su was about to be taken to the police station, he was again saved by Yi-rong, who electrocuted the police so that they both managed to escape. On the other hand, Detective Choi and the other cops checked the CCTV footage in Jin-sook's office building to prove their accusations against Dong-su. The security at Jin-sook's office building admitted that Dong-su was often seen around the building, but after the police saw the CCTV footage, they finally found out that Dong-su and Yi-rong were both seen entering the office after the deaths of Soon-hee and her co-workers. The time difference finally made the police conclude that they were not the perpetrators. On the other hand, Jin-sook has just returned to his desk, but he keeps thinking about why Dong-su's wound has healed so quickly. He is also amazed at Dong-su because Dong-su can know everything he had done, including when he killed his victims. Not long after that, Detective Choi and his partner met Jin-sook to ask him for information about Soon-hee and Min-ho. This was done because he was their co-worker who was not present when the incident occurred, so Detective Choi was suspicious of him. But one of Jin-sook's female co-workers appears to defend him from the police and says that Jin-sook is a good person and it is impossible for him to kill his co-workers. After being saved many times by Yi-rong, Dong-su finally stopped keeping her away and invited her to his house. At that place, Yi-rong explained why she discovered everything about Connect. She explains that she was almost hit by a truck in the past, but she was saved by a Connect. Since then, she has been trying to find Connect's whereabouts to thank him for saving his life. Yi-rong also admits that she accidentally got information about Dong-su, a Connect, after she tapped into the gangsters' conversations at their headquarters. She could know about gangsters because she wanted inspiration to write her novel about Connect at that time. Then Dong-su tells Yi-rong about his connection to a psychopathic killer who the police are currently after. He says that he really wants to catch the killer and take back his eye, which is currently on Jin-sook. On the other hand, Jin-sook seems to be looking for things that can connect his and Dong-su's eyes. Finally, they realized that the eyes were responding to Dong-su's voice from the song he uploaded on the YouTube channel, and when Jin-sook turned off that song, the connection between them ended. Unexpectedly, it turned out that many people were interested in the song, and there were even music producers trying to find the singer and songwriter. The scene changed and showed the gangsters who were in their headquarters. They were looking for information about Jin-sook after they found out that he had the eyes of a Connect, who was none other than Dong-su, so they ordered one of their men to find out about Jin-sook. But while they were discussing, they found a sound bugging device that had been hidden by Yi-rong all this time. This made them very angry, and they suspected Yi-rong because she was the only outsider who had ever come to their headquarters. So Yi-rong turns out to have dared to eavesdrop on their conversation all this time, and that's what makes her always be able to show up on time to save Dong-su. At the same time, Dong-su's eyes reconnected with Jin-sook because he did it on purpose so that Dong-su could see the sketch that he drew. In the sketch, he is drawing Dong-su's face, and he also writes a message for Dong-su that he will find Dong-su soon. This makes Dong-su realize that Jin-sook knows he can see what Jin-sook is doing. However, it doesn't stop there. He also deliberately shows his next murder plan to Dong-su, and his murder victims this time are 3 girls. At night, Dong-su is seen going somewhere, but he meets a street singer who is singing his song at that time. At the same time, he reconnected with his eye, so he realized that Jin-sook was watching him from behind. Dong-su knew where Jin-sook was and chased after him. Unfortunately, Dong-su was caught by the police again, and unfortunately, this time, Yi-rong did not show up to help him. After that, Jin-sook is seen visiting the surgeon. Then he beats up the doctor and ties him to a chair. He looks angry and asks the surgeon why he even replaced his eyes with those of a Connect. The surgeon, afraid to be killed by Jin-sook, finally tells what really happened on the night when Dong-su was kidnapped by the gangsters. Shortly after the doctor finished operating on Dong-su's body, Jin-sook came to see the injured doctor and asked him to operate. At first, the doctor refused his request, but Jin-sook insisted and was willing to pay any price so he could be operated on. Then he says he has terminal cancer, so he doesn't have long to live. Hearing this, the doctor finally agreed, but before he operated on Jin-sook, he was even surprised because Dong-su could come back to life, and even his body could fuse with itself. Unfortunately, Dong-su's eye was left there, so the doctor conducted an experiment on Jin-sook by transplanting one of Dong-su's eyes on the floor. After hearing the desired answer, Jin-sook kills the doctor, and he laughs happily after killing the doctor. On the other hand, Dong-su is seen being interrogated by Detective Choi and his partner at the police station. At that time, he tried to tell the truth, but Detective Choi's partner didn't believe that confession, which he thought didn't make sense. In the end, Detective Choi chooses to trust Dong-su and invites him to go up to the rooftop to talk so he can freely tell everything. There, he said about the murder plan that Jin-sook would carry out and told Detective Choi that Jin-sook's next target this time was 3 girls. Not only that, but Dong-su also proved his strength by forcibly removing the handcuffs on his hands, which surprised Detective Choi. But after hearing his explanation, Detective Choi asks Dong-soo not to interfere in this case anymore. Detective Choi tells him that it would be better if the police were to step in and handle this case. However, Dong-soo rejects the suggestion because he feels he knows the most about the psychopathic killer and wants to take back his eye. But Detective Choi doesn't stay silent. He tries to threaten Dong-soo to surrender and shoots his gun in the air, making Dong-soo decide to run away by jumping from the rooftop. Soon after, Dong-soo got back up and left the police station. That same night, he deliberately set fire to several schools around the area to ensure that all the children don't go to school and end up falling victim to Jin-sog's viciousness. This made Jin-sog finally change his plan by aiming for another target. Meanwhile, Dong-soo again meets Irong, who has been waiting in front of his house all along. Suddenly, she says she wants to show him something, then invites him to go somewhere. Unexpectedly, Irong actually admits that she is also a connect. Hearing that makes Dong-soo happy because he finally knows that he is not alone in this world. Then they accidentally injured their palms and connected their respective cells and ended up sleeping together. The next day, Dong-soo again gets visions from Jin-sog. As his original plan was thwarted by Dong-soo, he instead points out the next victim, and this time he has arrested a male music producer named Z. Jin-sog caught Z because he was a music producer who had rearranged Dong-soo's song. Without feeling guilty, he beats Z while challenging Dong-soo to meet him if Dong-soo doesn't want Z to be killed. It doesn't stop there. He even has the heart to hurt Z to provoke Dong-soo's anger. Knowing that frustrates Dong-soo because Z is innocent and has nothing to do with all this, but he is dragged into this problem. However, when Dong-soo was about to go save Z, he instead got a message from the gangsters who turned out to have beaten his boss and were holding him hostage. The gangsters also threatened that if Dong-soo did not surrender, his boss would be killed, and their actions were also based on their hatred for Irong, who had bugged them before, so the gangsters planned to arrest them at once. Knowing this, Irong orders Dong-soo to go save his boss while she is there and face the gangsters who are chasing them both. Sometime later, Dong-soo arrives at the factory and saves his boss. But suddenly, a member of the gangster appears and hits his head until he faints. Not long after, Dong-soo woke up again and realized that his hands were bound by a chain. So he was desperate to cut the chain with an iron cutting machine and hurt his hand. Even so, his hands reconnected, and he surprised his boss to see him like that while he returned to beat up the gangsters who had taken his boss hostage. At the same time, Irong was surrounded by gangsters, and she was finally arrested and taken for interrogation. But she didn't want to tell the truth, which made one of the high-ranking gangsters angry and hurt her face. But they were then surprised and discovered that Irong was also a connect. After that, she fought the gangsters, and she got away and went somewhere. On the other hand, after Dong-soo manages to save his boss, he apologizes because everything his boss experienced happened because of him. His boss, who initially thought that Dong-soo was a monster, actually felt grateful to him. Then he ordered Dong-soo to finish what he was responsible for. At the same time, the police found the body of a male thug under the bridge known as Woo Jin. At that time, he was found with a camera containing Jin-sog's photos. Woo Jin turns out to be the person the gangsters have assigned to spy on Jin-sog, but he dies in the line of duty, so the police suspect that the perpetrator of the serial killer is Jin-sog. The scene changes and shows the real culprit who killed Woo Jin, who turns out to be Irong. That night, she killed him, so the police suspected Jin-sog, so they stopped chasing Dong-soo. Her goal finally succeeded because the police were now more focused on investigating Jin-sog. On the other hand, when Dong-soo and Irong are hiding, he again has a vision of Jin-sog using his blood to write down the meeting location and time for him on a mirror. Upon seeing this, Dong-soo rushed to the location. When Dong-soo arrived, Jin-sog came by car and got out of the car wearing a mask to cover his body. It turned out that he had prepared the most deadly poison gas at the meeting place and trapped Dong-soo with a puff of poisonous smoke gas. Jin-sog hopes that this method can kill Dong-soo because he already knows that Dong-soo is a connect who cannot die even if he is seriously injured. Soon after, Dong-soo falls in front of Jin-sog. At first, he felt Dong-soo's heartbeat weaken and even stop for a while, but soon his heart started beating again. Unfortunately, Dong-soo fainted, so Jin-sog took him to his hiding place. Not long after, Dong-soo regained consciousness in the middle of the trip. Then Jin-sog told his purpose for doing all this. After he found out about Connect, he started thinking about experimenting with his dying body from cancer. He said he planned to take over Dong-soo's body but still use his brain and face. He asks Dong-soo if that method can save him from death or if it can actually make him connect like Dong-soo. However, Dong-soo didn't want to answer that. On the other hand, Irong is seen meeting a giant man living under a bridge named Hae-in. He turns out to be a connect, just like Irong and Dong-soo. Then she wakes him up and invites him to leave his hiding place. She says it is time for the connects to come out and show their true selves. Then they plan to kill anyone who intends to use their bodies, like the gangsters of the illegal organ trading syndicate. Meanwhile, at the police station, Detective Choi manages to get CCTV footage showing Jin-seok when he was attacking and kidnapping Z, so that evidence makes Detective Choi even more convinced that the psychopathic killer they've been hunting for is Jin-seok. At the same time, Dong-soo is brought to Jin-seok's headquarters. At that place, he shows Dong-soo his latest artwork. His victim, this time, was the surgeon who had died and was hanging in a position like he was being crucified. He explains that the surgeon is the one who brought them together. Jin-seok said that they were fate to meet. After saying that, he offered Dong-soo to unite their bodies. But he already suspected that Dong-soo would refuse the request, so he thought of another way and brought Z to Dong-soo. Jin-seok then threatens Dong-soo. If he refuses the offer, then Z will be killed. Seeing Z's condition makes Dong-soo feel very guilty, but Jin-seok conducts experiments on them instead. Shortly after, he hurt their finger. Unexpectedly, his experiment is successful because Dong-soo's little finger can merge with Z's finger and vice versa. Seeing that made Jin-seok happy, and he felt confident that putting their body parts together would be successful. Moments later, Dong-soo wakes up in the cold room with Z, then he apologizes to Z because he got Z involved in this matter. But Z also feels guilty for Dong-soo because he didn't have time to meet him to ask permission to arrange his song, and he also couldn't help catch Jin-seok, the psychopathic killer. After saying that, Z finally died in front of Dong-soo, so Z's death made him very angry, which made Dong-soo desperate to hurt his wrist so he could be free from the handcuffs. Even though he's freed, the cold room where he is turning out is locked from the outside by Jin-seok. Elsewhere, Hae-in and Hae-in came to the gangsters' headquarters and attacked them. With the power of Connect that they have, they can easily kill all of these illegal organ-trading gangsters. After that, Hae-in and Hae-in rush to Jin-seok's base, which they can track via the GPS signal from Dong-soo's cell phone. Soon after, they arrived and tried to free Dong-soo, who was trapped in the refrigerator. Unfortunately, Hae-in was found out and attacked by Jin-seok, which made him finally know that Hae-in is also a Connect because he saw her wounds heal quickly. Then he gets another crazy idea after seeing her. Shortly after, Jin-seok asks Hae-in what if Dong-soo and Hae-in have children, or what if he and Hae-in have children, and what will happen after that. Hearing this, Hae-in was angry and attacked Jin-seok. And even though she was attacked many times and even dropped from high places, she still got up because her body recovered quickly. However, their fight must stop because suddenly a police car siren sounds, and it turns out that Detective Choi and the other police have arrived there. Knowing that, Jin-seok was afraid, so he chose to run away. Meanwhile, Hae-in saves Dong-soo, but he chooses to chase after Jin-seok to stop all of this. On the other hand, Jin-seok, who was hiding, instead killed a policeman who almost found him. Meanwhile, Hae-in attacked Detective Choi because he thought Detective Choi wanted to hurt him. Luckily, Hae-in shows up at the right time and explains everything to Detective Choi, that the Connects will no longer hide and will show their skills to anyone. She insists if Detective Choi doesn't want to die, he can't get in their way. However, Detective Choi says that he doesn't care about the affairs of the Connects and only focuses on catching the psychopath killer, or Jin-seok. The scene again shows Dong-soo, who finally confronts Jin-seok in an alley. Suddenly, Jin-seok shoots him multiple times when he walks up to him. Fortunately, it does not affect Dong-soo. Even when one of Jin-seok's shots hit his eye, Dong-soo instantly recovered. When he managed to get close to Jin-seok, he removed the blindfold and tried to take his eye back on Jin-seok. Finally, with Dong-soo's Connect power, he can get his eye on Jin-seok. After getting his eyes back, Dong-soo intends to kill Jin-seok. But when he is about to attack Jin-seok, he is suddenly stopped by Detective Choi. Initially, Dong-soo rebels, but Detective Choi reminds him that if he kills Jin-seok, then he will be arrested by the police for committing murder. Afterward, Detective Choi persuaded him to stop and said it would be better if he submitted this case to the applicable law, and finally, Dong-soo gave up his intention. Shortly after that, Detective Choi ordered Dong-soo and Hae-in to leave and said that a SWAT team would come to that place soon. This mini-series closed by showing Dong-soo and Hae-in, who was about to run away, but suddenly several helicopters surrounded the place. The moral message that we can learn is to always be grateful for whatever privileges we have, because other people may not necessarily have what we have.